Jacques lives in Timitiquea. How do you say that?
Timitiquea.
Bienvenido acá.
Timitiquea, which is Algonquin for Deep River.
Deep River. So he's traveled in a long distance through probably bad weather on the Highway 17 East. He's here with his wife Sophie and his daughter Clementine. They're over there somewhere. Hello, welcome. Thanks for coming to Sudbury. So he was born and raised in Odawa, which is Ottawa. Jacques carries French-Canadian ancestry with a tear from his Abenaki lineage. Jacques holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Ottawa and a master's degree in industrial engineering at Polytechnique Montréal with a focus on risk management and emergency response. Isn't it cool how people with really serious engineering type jobs think seeds are cool? Like, I think that's pretty cool. Jacques has 22 years of experience in nuclear science for military and power application. Subsidies of finance travel to the United Kingdom, Netherlands, Finland, India, Brazil, Argentina, France, and Japan. Graceful apology for all excess. I think that's pretty cool that you've been able to go to all those places and bring some of that knowledge back to us. Cool. Jacques recognizes the importance of truth and reconciliation in order to find his footing on Turtle Island. Listen, we can't change the past. All we're doing is building a stronger future together. And so I appreciate all of these opportunities to collaborate with people from here and people from afar, and everybody's welcome. We're going to learn about all kinds of seeds from all over the world, and right now, with his banjo, Jacques is going to talk to us about milkweed and some things that we may have never thought about for milkweed. So here you go, Jacques.
Just looking for the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I guess I should give better instructions.
Okay.
I think if you just touch this, it'll be... And remember, you're looking for yourself in this box because everybody online is looking at you here. So step this way a little bit. Perfect.
Ani Bojo, Jacques Vincelette, Indigenous Timitekoya, Ndonshnaba, Nishtadim Dodam, Inini Awi. I was born and raised in Ottawa and now live in Deep River with my wife and daughter, Algonquin territory. I've been with the Deep River Weavers and with the close ties to the Horticultural Society. We like to grow our own fiber and dyes as well. So I've been weaving wool for 20 years. Spinning and spinning milkweed for 10 years since we've moved in Deep River. I like to gather my milkweed in the fall on Thanksgiving weekend. It gives me that chance to spin that gratitude, that thankfulness throughout the year. The Ojibwe word is shabozagun, from the root shab, which means going through. You'll find that root in shabobodo. She runs through. Shabobi, it is saturated. So when you have that mix of solid and liquid, shabobijinan, strain to strain. Shabojiwan, flows or drips or leaks through, if you have a liquid going through a fabric. And the Ojibwe word for milkweed, shabozigan, is also the word for laxative. So it's strong medicine. When I eat too much, it's also a strong, it can make you, it gives you it makes you want to throw up as well, right? So you have to be. So today I'd like to look at milkweed through the seasons. So it is a perennial. In the winter, the plant lives, survives the winter through its roots. In the springs, we can harvest the shoots. In the summer, we work with the flowers, the pods, and in the fall, the fruits and the stem. So winter roots brings back to the idea of hibernation. The milkweed is a perennial, so it does live in the ground. The first year, all its energy it draws from the sun will be directed to its roots. So there's no flowers the first year. The root can grow up to 4 meters deep, looking for that water. It will grow in full sun and well-drained, sandy, and clay soil. When I look back at my roots, I think about the essence of life. The plant is in the seed, the seed's in the plant. I'm quite fascinated by the cosmology in submarine. Right? There's the snow lab capturing the neutrino, and thanks to the neutrino, thanks to our space telescopes, we hear the echoes of the Big Bang about 14 billion years ago. And the neutrino made its first appearance, with that soup of elementary particles. It's known as an escape artist, right? If that Big Bang gave us a perfectly balanced universe with matter and antimatter, it's a miracle that we're here today, right? Because the matter would annihilate antimatter and back to the void. But neutrino has slightly different properties to the antineutrino, and as such was able to break that balance. So about 5,000 years ago, that's where we have the formation of the solar system and the Earth, which is amazing considering that we're a second-generation star, right? Knowing that we're stardust. So that's not that far back. 3.5 thousand years ago, we start having organic unicellular life on Earth in pools of water. We start having algae.
I want to help you be successful.
I want to help Jacques be successful. I really would appreciate if you are managing a vendor booth, if you could please sit and encourage the people you're speaking with also to sit or whisper, because I would like to give this presentation.
800 million years ago, we have first algae, so multicellular life. 470,000 years ago, we start having land plants. Flowers, 126,000 years ago, 126 million years ago. And so when we think about milkweed, it is a very old ancestor to our human life today. So from flowers, eventually we get primates, 66 million years ago. Homo sapien, the modern human, only 300,000 years ago. Wheat culture, modern agriculture, we're looking at 12,000 years ago. And I'm interested in ancient Greece, 2,400 years ago. That's when we have Hippocrates. He's one of the best known Asclepias. So when the Latin name, the scientific name for milkweed is Asclepias. And what do we mean by Asclepias? It brings me back to Hippocrates, who was the best known disciple of Asclepius, the god of medicine. So we recognize Asclepius, by the snake around the staff. So this is an ancient mural from ancient Greece. And at the top of the stairs is Asclepius. And Hippocrates is sitting on his right, welcoming a pilgrim looking for remedy. So who was Asclepius? The legend tells us that he's the son of Apollo, the sun god, the god of music, truth, and prophecy, and also brings us healing. The sun travels through the sky through the day, and then visits the underworld each night. So that cycle of life. The sun god got his music, his lyra from Hermes, and shared it with Orpheus. And Orpheus, from the Greek mythology, we know, also traveled to the underworld and used music to move through boundaries, and also to build that relationship with the natural world. So Asclepius was also the nephew of Hermes. We know that Hermes also carries a staff, the Cassidius, with two snakes. Hermes got his staff in exchange for the lyra, so he got his staff from the sun god, and it also carries some healing powers. Hermes is also known as the soul guide, the psychopomp. He would lead the dead to the underworld. Asclepius is the son of Coronis. She was a mortal princess in ancient Greece. She was pregnant by Apollo, but however, while pregnant, she had an affair. And Apollo was off on his godly duties, but he had left the crow to stand watch. And Asclepius comes from the same root word as scalpel. It means to cut open. So I apologize for the next slide. It's a bit gruesome. When Apollo found out of the affair, Coronis was shocked. She apologized. He forgave her, and Hermes came. It was too late. So in the background, we see the funeral pyre. Hermes came to help with the proceedings, and noticed that the baby was still alive. So at the first C-section, that's where Asclepius was born. I'm still deeply troubled that why the son, such an aspiring figure, would show such insecurity when it comes to matters of affection. So Asclepius has maintained ties with his father and learned some medicine from the son, but his main tutor was Chiron the centaur. So there's some of the horse teaching. The horse is a very, very powerful creature. Teaches us to travel, and but also it's a very gentle strength. It gives us that gentle attentiveness, which is an important part of medicine. Asclepius also learned plant medicine from the snake. He was called to help a prince who was dying, and unfortunately he got there too late. The prince had died, so he was fiddling with his staff and knocked out a snake with his staff. So, but right behind, a second snake came with a plant, a herb in its mouth, fed the herb to the dead snake that came back to life. And that's how Asclepius saved or brought the prince back from the dead. But we start getting interest in that plant medicine. The snake comes from the underworld, so there's that link to incubation. It's cold-blooded. It brings us venom, so that source of death, but also carries the anti-venom. And the snake is also a symbol of transformation through the shedding of the skin. So with Hippocrates and other, it was a long lineage of medics. They built these healing centers where the snakes roamed freely, definitely kept pest control. And as part of that ritual, there would be a 3 to 6 day fasting, and then you would sleep overnight underground, and then there would be interpretation of your dreams. So a big shift from the temples to Apollo. The best known is the temple at Delphi, where it was the priestess who would do the incubation for those seeking counsel. Now in the modern medicine, under the Asclepius, it was important to have the patient involved in his remedy in that journey. A side note: 2,400 years ago, that's also the time when Socrates introduced us to logic and a questioning attitude. His disciple Plato, looked at the material world as imperfect reflection of the ideal world of thoughts. And so logic provides us that mean to reach these ideal states. Aristotle, a disciple of Plato, flip the perspective over. We live in a material world. Let's try to use logic to better understand that physical world. Aristotle was also was first trained as a medic under the school of Asclepius as well. In Ojibwe tradition, February is the Makwagisis, the bear moon. And we know that the bear hibernates through the winter. So there is that period of incubation. It's a misunderstanding, though, to think that hibernation is sleeping through all winter, because February is also the month where mama bear will go into labor, and there's the birthing of the cubs, which is not done asleep, typically. And in February, there's also the suckerfish that goes down to the underworld. That sacrifice helps to feed the people. The suckerfish comes back in April. In the Christian tradition, we've also just started Lent, which has grown out of fashion these days. Today, we're living in this ultimate rave at the end of our time. We're called to live every day like it's Mardi Gras. So perhaps there's room for us to learn back those ancient traditions of incubation and slowing down. I like Cornel West is quite inspirational. He's been blessed, or I've been blessed, transformed from a gangster to a redeemed sinner with gangster proclivities. Milkweed medicine, so it was given that name, Asclepius, because it's considered a panacea of treatments. The root is used to help clear lung infections, expectorant, clear out those fluids, asthma. The latex can be used externally to help with wounds, both for the painkiller and antiseptic. It's also very strong medicine for the heart, the thyroid, and fever regulation. It's used for family planning as a contraceptive, but also it helps with lactation. The French folk name, don't venin, so the venom tamer. So suggests that if you take it in small doses, it can help protect from venom. And again, there's that link to the snake. It's also referred to as cochon de lait. So a clear reference to a meal, so a source of food, but also to family planning. In English, the translation would be the suckling pig, and so it's not clear. Why do we associate affection as a female quality, and move from affection to intimacy, to promiscuity, to violence? So there's definitely work to be done in terms of reconciliation and gender roles. Looking at the spring, so in the spring we have shoots that come out in May. The catenoid, that's the toxin, it reduces the heart rate. Now the plant uses that toxin to protect itself from grazers. So it affects it'll affect the heart of most vertebrates, slowing down the heart, even causing death. So we can remove that latex by boiling it with water, and then it can be eaten similar to asparagus. There's multiple shoots that come per root. So instead of cutting it all out, losing the plant, for sustainable growth, you would cut a few shoots close together, but leaving some to help maintain that root, a healthy root. In the summer, we have the flowers. So the bunches, the buttons can be eaten like a bit like broccoli. Eaten fresh, boiled. The flowers can also be dried, and they are full of nectar, very sweet. And so if you dry them, you get that extra dose, source of fructose, of sugar for the winter. And after the flowers bloom, you can also eat the pods. So the pods at the end of July. I prefer my pods smaller than 4 inches, so 2 to 4 inches. When they're very small, they taste a bit like a zucchini. Some eat them when a bit later, up to 6 to 8 inches long. But there's more air into them. It plays on the texture. Essence of life. So it's also feeding the lots of insects. In today's complex world, it might be a bit reductionist to think the plant is in the seed's in the plant, the eggs and the chickens and the egg. The monarch butterfly gives us a bigger picture. The monarch's in the chrysalis. The chrysalis is in the caterpillar is in the egg, each in its own relationship with milkweed. So the monarch caterpillar So the monarch butterfly will lay its eggs explicitly on the milkweed because the caterpillar eats the milkweed leaves, extracting the toxins and concentrating them in its bodies, so that when it flies around as a butterfly, it only takes a bird, it tastes monarch once, it'll be sick, and not necessarily die, but it will know to keep away from monarchs. Yeah, and the carotenoid is that toxin that really affects the heart. So at the fall, we harvest the stem and pod fibers. So the stem is used for hemp, for rope, for fishing nets and linen. And the pods for silk, wadding, and batting. It's also a good fire starter, very dry. The French, the south of France, their main fabric is linen from hemp. And so there was a natural interest in the milkweed for the fabric. King Louis at the time gave exclusive rights to his hat maker to spin the silk as well as the hemp, as well as the. Shortly after, there was the fall of Quebec, and so the commercialization of the Asclepias fell out of fashion, and the British pushed more the cotton as the fiber of choice. Hence, the British refers to the plant as a weed, whereas the French still call it Asclepias for its more noble history. So thank you for indulging my interpretation of George Harrison's Here Comes the Sun. I just wanted to finish off with Annie LaRocque's, Dave Stewart, Bob Dylan, and Klein Meyer. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? The answer, my friend, is blowing in. The wind of change blows straight into the face of time, like a storm wind that will ring the bell for peace of mind. Let Asclepias milkweed bring what my banjo wants to play. Take me to the magic of the moment on a glory night, where the children of tomorrow dream away on the winds of change. When we look at it from up here, we get an appreciation for the world as a beautiful place, and we do need to care.